Good morning. We're going to give it a minute or two just to see if any additional people here are going to jump on. But the friendly faces here you see are going to be your panelists today, and we'll be walking through each of them. So we're just going to hold off for one more minute, see who else jumps on, and we're going to start this out. Good morning, all of you. Okay, it seems like we're ready to go. So good morning or afternoon, depending on what part of the country you are in at the moment, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Elvia Sanchez from Retirement Solution Group, and usually I speak to your parents in regards to retirement or financial goals, but today it's about you. Our hope is that you come out of this meeting with some good strategies on how to manage your money as you go into college, small steps to take as you start your new job, and learn from our experiences on how financial steps you take now will affect you in the future. As you can see these lovely ladies here, this is your team. Let me quickly introduce them. We have here Eileen Horton, Ashleigh Hiltz, Ella Wang, Jessica Hodges, and Mary Wade, who will be sharing their firsthand experiences as they have gone through different financial stages in their young adult lives. So to start us off, it's going to be Eileen, Ashleigh, and Ella as they navigate us through the college financials do's and don'ts. Good morning, ladies. Are you ready? So first question here I have is for Ella. How do I find out if I'm eligible for financial aid from my school, and how do I choose where to obtain the student loan?
So from my experience, I know that most schools have their financial aid office that you can reach out to. So you can get the information from the office about the information that the things that can be qualified for the financial aid. And for me, such as like there is a financial aid for the tax bill and also the study tool. So also you can check out the federal student aid. That federal helps a lot as it has lower interest rates. So as an example, during the COVID, that the federal paused the interest rate from the student.
Fantastic, thank you. Ashleigh, did your school offer financial wellness education, and in what format?
Yes, my school did offer financial wellness education. It wasn't in course form, but on their website, they did have a page with links to articles, calculators, videos, different things like that to kind of give you an insight on things to look out for when you're on your financial wellness journey. And I used the links to list like where you can use your student discounts, stuff like that. And they also did hold events here and there with guest speakers who would touch briefly on financial wellness, but that was optional, and I didn't personally use those, but the website definitely is the biggest help.
And were you able to use some of those links on the website to assist you?
Yes. A lot of the links and articles were really helpful. They give you basic information on stuff that you should know, like about credit cards, loans, different things like that.
Great, thank you. Eileen, should I set up a savings account, and what is the purpose for it?
So myself, I've always had a savings account, and I think that everyone, especially going into college, should create a savings account. Not only does it help you budget your money, but it makes sure that you don't blow all your money on things. Like I've had friends in the past who have just had checkings account, and they think that they have unlimited money until they don't. So I do think that it's really important. I think it's more important because you know that you have money to fall back on, especially for the fun things that come up like spring break or wanting to go out with your friends. And I feel like without that, I wouldn't have been able to do any of it because I personally know I would have blown through my money. So I think that if you don't have one now, before going to college or before going back to school, it's very important to set one up just so you know that you have that money to fall back on and you're not blowing it all at once.
And how hard is it to keep that money in savings and not jump into it from time to time, because we think it's so important to have that night out?
I've noticed that it is very hard not to want to pull from that, and I still try my hardest not to touch it. And I would only give myself a certain budget when I got paid in college or for the weekend that I could pull it. And if I spent that, then that was it until either next month or you have to keep a budget in mind, because it's so easy to say, oh, I've, you know, money in there, let me touch it, it's never going to go away. Well, if you keep touching it, you're not going to have it.
True. Thank you. Ella, is it important to have a credit card in college? And what type of purchases would you use it for?
Yeah, I do think like credit card is very important for the college students, that when you have a credit card, you can earn credits since then. And credits is essential when in the future you can use the credit to get a loan or buy insurance coverage. So if you dig a hole now of bad credit, it is not going to look good in the future. So keep in mind you have to pay it off once a month. And also it's very important to know that do not use it unless you have the money to pay for it.
So can you give us an example of something you would purchase on your credit card?
Yeah, for the credit card, I will buy the student tools, and also I will pay my loan from my credit card, and also I will budget the expense from my credit card about like buying some clothes from them.
Thank you, Ella. Ashleigh, what was the most common errors that you saw amongst your friends, peers in college when it came to money?
I think the most common thing that I saw or things was not having a savings account. Definitely that was one of the big ones. Like Eileen said, it's really easy to just spend all your money, and when you have a savings account, you're less likely to touch it. Another thing was maxing out their credit cards. A lot of us are trying to build our credit score, but it's really easy to just be like, oh, I have a credit card, I have all the money in the world to spend, but you have to be able to pay off that balance at the end of each month, because it's not good to carry a balance. And that was a common mistake amongst my friends. They would just carry a balance constantly and just pay the minimum amount, which is not good for your credit score. And also carelessly spending, which I even am guilty of. In college, you're going to go out and do a lot of things and spend a lot of money, and you don't really have anybody there to tell you no, that you can't. So it's really easy to just blow through your money. So it's important to keep that budget in mind so that when you do want to do something, you have the money to do it, or when there's an emergency, you have the money to pay for your emergency and things like that.
Thank you. Those were great answers to help out here as we navigate through some college and some errors that not only do a lot of us make, have made, right? And then kind of have to live with some of those consequences. So we hope that that assists you listeners in steps to take in college. And so hopefully coming out of it, you won't be in that bad position. So as we transition here from college, you graduated, congratulations, or maybe didn't go to college, went straight to work, but now you have your first job. So what are the small financial steps should we be taking here? And on our panel in this group will be Eileen and Ashleigh. Eileen, how do you prioritize paying off debt?
So coming out of college, there can be credit card debt and loan debt that you're worried about. And as far as the student loans go, it's very important to start paying those as soon as the payments start and not forgetting about it and set up a payment plan. I know a lot of places that give loans do, they just take it monthly, so it's reoccurring. So it's important to make sure you know when those start, because you do not want to fall behind in those payments. As far as credit card debt, it's important to start paying that back as soon as possible, because you don't want to dig yourself in a deeper hole. I feel like as we get older, credit's a way to get big purchases, so it's important to start paying that back as soon as you can. And the other thing is, it's important to budget that into your paycheck. How much do you need to put aside for student loans? How much do you need to put aside for, the credit card debt you got? And so both are important. Both are something that you need to start thinking about probably as soon as you graduate. What has to go to what and how much has to go where.
Great. How do you balance paying off college loans versus something long-term like a retirement account and or other benefits?
So like I said, it is important to start paying off student loans as soon as they start. Like I said, don't forget it, and budgeting your paycheck into it. But it's also important to start contributing to a 401k as soon as you can, or as soon as you start working if work offers it, even if it's 2% of your check that's going to it. That'll add up over time. And as you get raises and promotions and you pay off those student loans, you can start putting more into it. And 50 years down the road, or like 40 years down the road, you're gonna thank yourself for starting when you were younger. So it's definitely important to do both and prioritize both, because it's possible to pay off student loans and put a little bit of your check into 401k.
Great, thank you. And then, many employers also offer a match. So then the savings for retirement, right? It's not completely on you, that if your employer has a match and you at least put in that amount to get whatever the employer's in. So you're saying double, for a longer period of time, which could assist you. Is that something that you have encountered, Eileen?
Oh yeah, definitely. I started, contributing as soon as I got working, and I know even if it's a little bit, it's going to add up over time. The match is going to help. So I know later in life, like, I'll be thanking myself for doing this.
And there's just people who don't go to college, go straight to work. So then they're in a different position where they can start saving right away for that, or other benefits or other savings.
Yeah, and I think looking at the benefits part, it's definitely, if you're not on your parents' insurance, definitely look at the health benefits that work gives you. And along with health benefits, there's multiple other benefits that work is willing to give you. And I think it's important to assess where you're at in life and your age and what you need and what you don't need, because that'll change over time.
Thank you, Eileen. That was wonderful. Ashleigh, how does debt to income ratio affect you?
So your debt to income ratio is your monthly debt payments in comparison to your monthly income, and it's expressed as a percentage. When you apply to borrow money, lenders look at this debt to income ratio to see if you can afford to pay off your loan or whatever it is you're borrowing. There are two types of debt to income ratios that lenders typically look at: front end and back end. Back end is all of your debt obligations compared to your monthly income. So for example, if you make $5,000 a month and your total debt obligations is $1,800, you're going to take that $1,800 divided by that $5,000. You're going to get a decimal, multiply that by 100, and you're going to get a debt to income ratio of 30%. Lenders typically want your debt to income, your back end debt to income ratio to be 36% or lower. And the other side of this is front end. This is a measurement of all your housing expenses to your monthly income. This is usually used by lenders when you're applying for a loan, mortgage, and they don't want your front end to exceed more than 28%. So just keep that in mind. You're not really going to have to worry about front end right now, because if you're just going into college or you're coming out of college, you're most likely not going to be applying for a mortgage right now. But it is something to keep in mind for the future when you do want to apply for a mortgage, because they are going to look at that.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Eileen, how can you build up your credit score?
So you can build up your credit score by paying the card in full every month. It's important to steer clear of the minimum payments, because you just don't want to keep adding to that, and that will lower your credit score. The other thing is to use on your needs and wants, or use on your needs, not your wants. Your wants can seem important, and it can feel like the money is free, but the money is not free at the end of the month. You have to pay it back. It's important to also have a budget, and don't max out your credit card if you don't need to.
Thank you. Ashleigh, how many credit cards should you have, and what's the appropriate balance to maintain? And as well as, what is an APR and how is it calculated?
Okay, so for how many credit cards you should have, there's no specific amount each person should have. It changes with each individual, and it depends entirely on your financial situation and your spending history. A question to ask yourself when you're looking to get another credit card or a credit card in general is if you can afford to pay off that monthly balance. If the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't get a credit card or add another credit card. It's important to keep in mind that every time you inquire about a credit card or apply for one, it can take a few points off of your credit score, especially if you apply for multiple in a short amount of time. This could really hurt your credit score. This shows lenders that you're a high-risk customer. So it's important that you kind of spread that out and keep that in mind. And another thing to keep in mind, when you have a lot of credit cards, you have a higher available credit balance. So lenders can see this as a bad thing, because if you can't afford to pay off that amount when you max all of your credit cards, that's not really a good thing. So let's say you make $100,000 and your total available credit between all your credit cards is $60,000. If you max out that $60,000, they're going to ask, are you going to be able to pay this off? So just keep that in mind when you're setting up credit cards, applying for credit cards and such. For balance wise, an appropriate balance is usually 30% of your total available credit. So if you have a credit limit of $1,000, you don't want to exceed $300 of that limit. A high utilization rate can hurt your score, so definitely make sure you're not going over that 30% too often. APR, that is your annual percentage rate. This is the yearly interest charged on credit card balances or other types of loans. It's based on credit history, amount financed, and length of term. It does not take into consideration compounding. So when you get a credit card, the APR, most of those companies, they compound their interest daily. And if you want to figure out your amount of interest you spend each month, you can look up online how to calculate that. But credit card companies, they can change the APR. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter if your credit score is good or not, especially if it's a variable rate. The credit card companies will look at federal rates and probably increase or decrease depending on those. And credit card companies, they calculate APR using a formula. It's a little bit complicated, so stick with me. It's fees plus interest paid over the life of the loan divided by the loan amount. That amount is going to be divided by the number of days in the loan term. You multiply that by 365 days in the year, and then times that decimal by 100, and you get your APR percentage.
And really what that means, right, Ashleigh, is that although they're saying that on $1,000, if you have a 20% over the year interest rate, you would think that's $200. But in reality, because it's compounding daily, that amount could be a lot more. So that is why they always say, don't just pay the minimum on your credit card, pay more into it, because if not, you're literally just paying the interest on that credit card and you can't get rid of it. And like Ashleigh stated, they can increase those interest rates on those credit cards at any time. At the moment, interest rates are moving up. So somebody who had even a wonderful credit score, and they might have had interest rate on their credit card at 15%, they might be getting a notice within the next month or two that, hey, we know you're a great person to lend money to, but credit interest rates have gone up. So now instead of 15%, we're going to charge you 18%. So you also want to keep on top of that to make sure you know what interest rate you are paying, because then you might have to pay more into that credit card at any point in time. But this is how you start taking control of your financial, stability and what really you are paying out into the world, so you could keep more control of it and see where you need to make some changes. That was great, ladies. Thank you so much for all that information. So now you guys have been out in the workforce 5 years or more. The needs now are different when it comes to finances, right? Mary Wade and Jessica Hodges are here to speak to us a little bit of what are they seeing now that they've been out of college 5 years or more, are in their professional life, and the needs are different. So starting off with you, Jessica. How should I budget my paycheck now at this time frame?
So the general rule is a 50-30-20 rule. So 50% should be spent on needs, 30% should be spent on wants, and then 20% should be spent on savings. So you might ask, how am I going to know what exactly is going into every category? My best suggestion is to, for 30 days, keep a spreadsheet regarding everything. Keep receipts, write everything down, and that at least helps give you a starting point, so you know what bills are going out every month. You know what you're spending on going out. You know exactly what's going into your savings account, if any. And it'll give you a better idea of what you can tweak as well. You know, if you notice that, you know, you have a lot of money going to, you know, alcohol, bars, going out, it can help you trim those areas as well. My best advice is two things: to be realistic. So when you do get that 30-day snapshot of, you know, where exactly your money is going, you know, to say that you're going to put a ton of money away every month may not be the case right now, but it's something that you could build up to. So definitely be realistic, and always, always, always keep a bucket for emergency money. Expect the unexpected. Things do come up, random expenses, emergencies. So it's really important to put money in that bucket every month, ideally, so you have a 6-month emergency fund. But those would be my best couple pieces of advice as far as budgeting.
Thank you. Mary, how can I improve my credit score at this point in time in my life?
Well, first things first is you really want to know what your credit score is. So you're going to want to pull your credit report. Your credit is reported by the 3 bureaus, the Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And to pull your credit report, there are useful tools and websites that you can use, like creditkarma.com. They offer it for free. And then you want to know what actually impacts your credit score. Things like your credit history, the type of credit that you have, your missed payments, your utilization. And then you want to go and look at the ranges. So what's a normal, what do they say is a good credit score? It's about a 670 to a 739. Then there's the very good, which is 740 to 799, and an excellent credit score, which is what we all strive for, right? 800 to 850. So to get to that excellent credit score, you know, you're going to look at your credit report and you're going to review for areas of improvement. You know, if you're checking your report and you see you've got errors on it, dispute those errors. Call the credit bureaus, let them know that this isn't yours. You know, sometimes there might be a credit card that was put on your name that you didn't actually apply for. Dispute that, because that will help your score. If you have missed payments, best advice I can give you is set up automatic payments every month from your paycheck so that you don't miss any more payments. Reduce your utilization. Utilization, like was mentioned before, is your total balance over what your actual credit limit is, and you want to keep that less than 28-30%. So by doing that is paying off those credit cards and starting off with the lowest balance, and then you'll kind of put those off, you know, build yourself up by paying off those credit cards. And also limit your number of accounts. This is the credit type that I'm talking about. There's, you know, the card notes are going to be more beneficial than a normal credit card. And also really have a good variety of types, like, you know, have the credit card, but also have a car note. And also, if you pay a credit card off, keep that open. Don't close it, because that will impact your score.
Thank you. Great information, Mary. And then Mary, how much do you need to save for retirement if you start saving in your 20s?
Well, in general, they do say that if you want to hit that $1 million at retirement age, which is currently at 65, you should be putting $500 a month. That's what the experts say. Now, the DOL, the Department of Labor, says that you should have 12%. in savings, but the national average right now is actually only 6%. But please keep in mind, your savings is a combination of accounts. It's your actual savings account that you have in your personal bank. It's going to be your 401k that you're putting into your company's retirement plan, as well as your employer contributions. So best advice I can give you is if your company is offering an employer match, take full use of that. If they're giving you 100% of 6% of what you defer, do your best to put 6% away in your retirement so that you're then getting 6%. It's free money, so take advantage of it. But be realistic also. I mean, don't go over your means. Like if there's someone, if you know that you've got a big thing coming up and you can't put it away, that's okay. But be realistic, save what you can, and above all, start early. The earlier you can start saving for retirement, the better.
Thank you, Mary. And then Jessica, how do you finance a big purchase?
So I would first ask myself if it was a want or a need. So if it's just a want, something that I can save up for over time, I build that into my budget. I set aside a certain amount every month, to buy it at a later date. A majority of the time, if it's not an emergency, if it's not a need, I like to build that into my budget. If it's something in the case where, your car broke and you have to get it fixed tomorrow, or you have to buy a new car right away, something urgent, my best piece of advice would be to shop around for interest rates. And that's why it's so important to have a good credit score, is because the interest rate you're given is based on what your credit score is. So the more favorable the credit score, the less money that you're going to be paying in interest. So definitely goes back to, keeping your credit history clean, paying on time payments, because when you do have these emergencies where maybe you do have to finance something, you're able to.
Thank you. And last question, and this is both for Jessica and Mary. What was your worst experience you had financially during college that has affected you today? And if there's a best experience that puts you in the best position today financially, what were those? And we could start off with you, Jessica.
So I think the worst decision I made, I'm pretty sure Mary can connect with me on this, was credit cards. I got into the American Eagle store credit cards. It put me in a position where I could pay it, but I really couldn't do anything outside of paying credit card bills. So if anything, the best thing I did was maybe, I was financially irresponsible early on, but now that I have kids and a house, I definitely learned from my mistakes in college.
Mary?
Like Jessica said, I think, one of the worst mistakes that I ever made was opening up those store credit cards. I wanted to have the hottest fashion, so I opened multiple cards, and I would see that I had, $1,000 balance, and I'd max it out thinking, I could pay it off at any time. And then I started to pay for it. And it took some time, but the one piece of advice that I would give, and this has really been beneficial for me, is like Jessica was saying, is shop around for the best rates, do your research, budget, but really, honestly, give yourself a 2-week period. If you go to the store and you see something that you want, think about it, go home, think about it. And in 2 weeks, if you still want it, clearly you need it, or you just have to have it, fine. But, give yourself that, and then also stay in limits, stay within your limits.
Thank you. And I'm sure everybody here has some experiences, as such. And even me, and I'm obviously out now 20 years or more, I think, out of out in my professional world, right? But everybody comes from a different place in life financially. So some of us come into college having to pay fully for, all our college education, having to take out loans and coming out of college, paying for that for 10, 15, 20 years, sometimes even more if you decide to be a doctor, right? Versus there's people who get grants or scholarships, or parents are able to help out and pay some of it or a portion of it or all of it. And then at that point in time, coming out of college, you're in a different position and can save for different things, right? But I think overall, usually everybody gets caught up in the same mistakes of overspending on the extras and not really budgeting that in. And like every lady in here said already, be realistic how you budget and what you spend. If you know you're going to go get your hair done, if you know you're going to go out with friends, if you know that you want to party, if you know that you want to go on those spring breaks, make sure you set money aside for it so that when you come back, you're not paying for it, literally in hardship, right? And then there's other people who go straight to work. So you're in a different position where you could start saving for the future already, maybe a home, maybe already started a family life. But always remember that everybody's coming here from a different financial situation. When you look at your financial goals, look at yourself, don't look at everybody, and make them realistic to you and stick to that plan for yourself so that you always stay ahead with your own plan, right? So we hope that you coming here today, we were able to answer some questions, give you some good tidbits as you go into college or your first job so that you feel that you have the proper step taking those, those first steps into your finance world as an adult. And that you were able to set some expectations for yourself. We do thank you for coming and joining. We will be recording this and sending it out if you would like to recap. And of course, if you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to contact us. We're happy to help out and here to assist. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again.